Yo guys, and good day. Hey Vijay, welcome in dude. Thank you for joining. The fastest first claimer in the Wild West. I hope you're having a good morning so far. And yeah, welcome back to more of AC3. We were working yesterday actually on finishing this, and I was getting really close, actually in the middle of the last mission right now. But yeah, unfortunately dinner time got kind of in the way, and then I didn't go live anymore yesterday during the night. So yeah, we're gonna do that today instead, and take all the time to really, give this game a good send-off. What we're also gonna be doing is we're gonna be watching some additional stuff for this game after we finish it. There's actually some deleted speeches and dialogues that never went into the game, but they're kind of like integral to some of the character arcs, so we're gonna have a look at that. And yeah, then it is time to start Unity almost. I decided to skip Tyranny of King Washington after all. For one, because I'm not the biggest fan of the DLC and the writing in it. Another reason is it's not really historical, like it's more of an alternative reality scenario. The few parts that are actually historical will be explained later by me. I'm gonna actually talk about the DLC a little bit and what happens in it. We're also gonna have a look at the fandom site and read about it. But yeah, I decided not to play it because it's really, like, none of it is happening for real. So it doesn't really fit too well either with the whole like historical approach of events. And another reason is also I don't want to end the Desmond Saga with, that DLC. Because technically it does take place a year after the ending of AC3.
Citizen!
But yeah, I don't want to, have that be the ending of the Kenway Saga, I guess. Also, hey there, Aura. Welcome in. Good morning, citizen. So we're gonna be hearing that sound bit for real in Unity once we start it later today. You think also you need to make some cuts and content if you want to finish the full annual playthrough? The games are so big now. Yeah, that's another thing, right? Like 2 years ago I did my completionist run of the entire series. And that just took me ages, to get through that. So this year already I'm cutting some content in the games, like not doing full completionist but just focusing on anything with story relevance. But that's also one of the reasons why I cut Tyranny of King Washington and won't be playing it, because it doesn't really have much of a story importance. Because it's not really canon either, like what happens in it. So yeah, I feel it's good to make a cut there and already make a start in Unity. But yeah, I'm super stoked and excited for Unity, to be honest. Set everything up earlier and ran around Paris a little bit, and yeah. Getting excited. Indeed, Aura, indeed. So yeah, so yesterday we stopped here during the mission where we go after Chartsley. We just have a part where we chased him through the shipyard and also shot him, which means he's now fatally wounded. But Connor also is in the best of shapes because he also got badly wounded by the chase and the crashing and stuff. So yeah, it's time to look what he's up to now. Hey Lucinda, welcome in. Thank you for joining.
Rough night, was it? He headed inland. Took a ferry up the Charles River.
I will need passage as well.
Of course. Only say the word.
Oh yeah, me as well, Lucinda. It's gonna be good. Oh nice, you actually got Atiya's outfit unlocked now. Oh yeah, that means you got 100% sync in every single main mission. Because that's a reward for doing it. I think it's fitting that we would be getting Altair's outfit for that. Or you struggled a lot with Unity's gameplay changes and the environment, so you're stoked to see a pro do it, lol. I'm not sure I would say pro, but yeah, I love Unity, and the parkour systems to them satisfying. And yeah, I just love, you know, sometimes just like booting up Unity and running around for the sake of doing parkour. Just, yeah, lots of fun for sure. The famous chase through the burning ship, you do not miss that. Yeah, a lot of people struggle with that, especially with the optional objectives as well. You can't take any fire damage and you can't shove anybody. And what else? You have to stay within range of Chatzi of 50 meters. It's definitely tricky. When you say the word, I just said it, dude, let's go, chop chop. Yeah, no kidding. Time is of the essence. Okay, one thing. Is Dobby level 11 now? Okay, she is. Okay, cool. That means Stefan, Jamie, Jacob, Duncan, Deborah, and Clipper all have been gotten to rank 11, which is Assassin. Very nice. Okay, let's end Lee. This cutscene is super epic. It's actually one of my favorite cutscenes coming up now because it communicates the entire scene without any dialogue whatsoever. Just really well done.
Why would they leave this behind?
Long have we waited for you to return. You have done as we asked. You have succeeded.
No! I have failed! My people are gone! Chased out by those who I thought would protect them!
It is a trade, a sacrifice, and not in vain. For you have found it.
This?
Now you must hide it, where none shall think to look. And then in time, what once was, shall be again.
I do not understand.
Nor need you. Only do as we ask. Then you may do as you wish.
But what of my people?
You have saved this place, as was your people's purpose, and that matters most.
It is not enough.
It will never be enough. You strive for that which does not exist. Still, you have made a difference, and you will do so again. Remember, you must hide the amulet where none might find it.
And yeah, welcome in raiders. Thank you again so much for the raid, Rod. I really do appreciate it. I hope you had a good rest of a stream today with Red Dead Redemption 2. Also welcome in Connoisseur. Thank you for joining. Yeah, Aura, he was in the tavern the entire time. Waiting to be killed by Connor. It really is, Rod. You know, the whole story of Connor is very bittersweet, very tragic as well. What he loses, you know, like the whole mission for him was to set out to save his people and didn't manage to do that. Or just to be a pawn of Juno, you know. There's also been really good things about it, like the homestead, you know, having all of these people come together. And this music. Just always gives me the feels. Yeah, that is sequence 12 complete. That's where the key is.
I know where the key is. Then let's go!
Guess this is it.
We're right behind you.
Amen. This part now. Not a problem, Assassino. You did manage to catch another fish you were after, but you get it in another stream. That's definitely fair, dude. Yeah. Like, you know, that whole kind of like hunting aspect for the checklist, you know, just take some time, I reckon, at some points. There's like so many locations you also have to potentially check as well, right? Where you can catch that specific fish, for instance. I guess this is it. Indeed. Yeah. Desmond's destiny is now to unfold. This is where everything led up to, all the way from AC1. And yeah, this will also be the ending of our Colonial Saga playthrough. Of, you know, kind of like in historical order. It's really cool that, you know, playing it in historical order actually ends with, you know, Desmond's proper ending. It feels like a really nice conclusion. That is, of course, if you dismiss tyranny like I do. But yeah. This is also the last time. I'm not even sure if you can check the laptop anymore. You can. That's kind of cool. But yeah, we did read this already last time. Yeah, it's that ending aura, but also gonna be quite epic. I love this whole part where Minerva and Juno show us what's to happen depending on the choice that we make. You know, that's something that they should have embraced for games like Odyssey and Valhalla, like having a choice system or seeing like alternative scenarios based on like what could happen in the future, not having choices within the past. You know, like Dessa makes a choice between two scenarios. But that's true, so many sources to find them. Yeah. I'm still unsure if I want to do all the hunting in my playthrough, to be honest. Maybe I just focus on everything of like story relevance. Because it seems like quite the time intensive process, you know, like going after each kind of like legendary animal, for instance. Or kind of like unique animals that you have to get for the challenges. But I think I might start with like story focus, and then I just try to do as many challenges as possible and see if I can persevere or not. But yeah, we're gonna see. There's still some time before we start Red Dead 2. Avatar? Yeah, they definitely were. I like those boss fights, both in Odyssey and Valhalla. Definitely some memorable moments. Like the farting boar in Odyssey.
Moment of truth. Yeah, it's really annoying. However, I do like the other boar even less. Like the one used starts fighting in Odyssey. One of the very early ones. Because it just summons all of these smaller boars, and they have just such a big hitbox. So if 5 to 10 charge you at the same time, it's like almost impossible to dodge.
Come. Here, at last. You know our story now. Of how we tried. Of how we failed. All our hopes extinguished. Save one. Your touch. A spark. A spark to save the world.
Wait! Do not touch the pedestal.
Minerva?
You. But how? You left. You destroyed the device!
Did you think there was only one?
What the hell is going on here?
You must not free her.
Free her?
Juno dwells within these walls, awaiting release. I will explain. While we worked to save the world, she sought instead to conquer it. She used our machines to set her plans in motion. Divination through numbers. There is a pattern to existence. To comprehend the calculations is to tame time. This was my focus. And so I built the eye to aid us. But she turned it towards her own ends. When we discovered her treachery, we put a stop to it. And then we left. But first we called to you, that you might try again. We thought it would be safe with her gone. Now I see we were deceived. She survived, she endured, and then she began to work. For centuries, Tinia and I walked the world, hoping to rekindle the spark of civilization. We shared what we knew as best we could. We were not the only ones, but for all the power we wrought, still death would claim us. But before it did, I would have one last look to know if we had succeeded.
That's how you're here now?
I had hoped you might find this place and finish our work. But it is too late. You and the Templars have squabbled over our refuse. You have wasted centuries, and so you have lost your chance. You cannot hope to stop the end now, Desmond. Only to survive.
She's lying! Only touch the pedestal and the world will be saved.
Better the world burn than she be loosed upon it.
Is that so? Show him then.
But he will not understand. It is complicated. It is...
Show me.
If you heed Minerva, the sun will have its way. The ground will crack and spit fire into the skies. All the world will burn. But this does not end the world, merely heralds its arrival. Darkness follows. Then you emerge, resolving to lay a foundation that such a tragedy does not befall the world again. You will become a symbol to those who survive. Hope, knowledge, determination. You will inspire them to rebuild, to thrive once more. And as the world heals, so too will humanity. But you are just a man, frail and mortal. You pass from the world, leaving behind only a memory. A legacy. You will be remembered first as a hero, later as a legend, and in time, as a god. It is the cruelest fate to have written words that meant well, and see them made wicked and unwise. What was meant to encourage life, used instead to justify taking it. And so now you see that what was shall be again. So tell me, how is this better? She would sacrifice you, sacrifice the world, for no other reason than to deny me vindication.
They will enslave your kind, Desmond. Is this not why you fight? Is this not why you came here? To ensure more than just your race's future, but its freedom?
What future? What freedom? Billions dead and the whole cycle begun anew? This world has known nothing but heartache and horror since we left it.
Our gift to them, and you'd see it all returned.
Enough!
You must not do this.
Whatever Juno's planning, however terrible it might seem today, we'll find a way to stop it. But the alternative, what you want, there's no hope there.
If you free her, you'll be destroyed.
It will happen in an instant. There will be no pain.
You mustn't.
It's done, Minerva. The decision's made.
Then the consequences of this mistake are yours to live and die with.
You need to go. All of you. Now. Get as far away from here as you can.
Come with us. We'll find another way.
There isn't time.
Son.
You know it's true. It's already started. I need to do this now. So go. Go!
It's some sort of global aurora borealis. Never seen anything like this before. Eyewitnesses describe electrical storms and erratic displays of unusual weather. Residents are being asked to remain inside and wait for geological surveys are now reporting seismic activity throughout the Ring of Fire. Northeastern Canada is said to be experiencing the largest on record. Satellites and transformers are failing as the flare increases in intensity. Worldwide reports of blackouts seems to be receding. Residual seismic and volcanic activity is being reported, but nothing approaching earlier levels. Obviously, it'll be a while before experts are able to assess the full extent of the damage caused by today's events. But it appears the worst is behind us. We'll be sure to bring you more as this story develops.
It is done. The world is saved. You played your part well, Desmond. But now it's time that I played mine.
But now, it's time I played mine. It's kind of funny the way she says it. But yeah, Juno is freed. And Desmond is dead. Rest in peace. Yeah, it's kind of funny the way she says it. But yeah, this whole moment is so damn epic, you know. I actually remember the outrage that happened, you know, when AC3 ended. Like, how many people were mad that Desmond was dead. But, you know, it actually didn't bother me too much back then. And, I mean, it does bother me more today, actually, than back then, I would say. Because I thought, okay, yeah, I understand why Desmond did it, right? Like, he was facing, you know, the literal extinction of everybody on Earth. Maybe like 1% would have survived again, right? So all that progress, you know, would have been lost. It would be set back to ancient times again. And eventually, you know, things would turn out the way they were. Like the cycle of humanity, as you say, Rod. So I can understand why Desmond did that choice, right? I think it makes only sense he would do that, like sacrifice himself. But of course, after Desmond died, you know, Ubisoft didn't really know how to advance the modern day in a very meaningful way. It took it very safe and didn't try to commit to a new character, and I think that's the real issue. It wasn't that Desmond died, it was more like Ubisoft being unable to really commit to modern day further. So yeah, like, I can definitely understand why Desmond did it, and I think it's good that he did. But yeah, it's also of course incredibly sad, you know, seeing him go, because he's been such a great character and so well written, and also such a great voice actor behind it with Nolan North. But yeah. Yeah, Rod, Williams' reaction is just so heartbreaking as well, you know, considering how much development they had in their relationship in this game. Yeah, definitely is dramatic too, but it's so well done. It's all that was missing from that scene. Right. Exact moment they fucked up with the present timeline, killing Desmond. Hey there, Spectre. Yeah, that's understandable. Like, it just really didn't, you know, continue it very well, I guess. I thought Black Flag was still super intriguing with modern day and had some really good parts. Like, I actually love Black Flag's modern day. But it was clear with the protagonist that they didn't want to commit, you know, just yet. And it wasn't until Origins, which is like 5 years later, that they finally committed to an actual protagonist. And that was Layla, so take that with a grain of salt, I guess. You never did understand what she did now that she's free. You feel like we don't hear from her for a while. Yeah, that's the thing, right? They kind of like took that Juno storyline and they
talk about it further and finish it also in the comics. So after this game, I'm not sure which year they actually started doing these comics. I think it was around the time of Syndicate maybe? Or Unity? They brought out both a series called Assassins and one called Templars. And in there I think it is that they talk about how Juno, through the Shroud of Eden in Syndicate, actually is able to possess a human body again. Grammatica was working kind of like on getting a precursor recreated from scratch, right? So that's kind of how she gets to be alive again. But yeah, something is going to happen that finishes her storyline, which I might not want to spoil just yet for anybody that doesn't know. But once we get to Syndicate, I will certainly talk about it. But yeah, it's a bit of a shame, you know, considering how big of a character Juno was for the games. That Way went ahead and, you know, didn't continue it within the games, at least not meaningfully. Yeah, I mean, she still appears in, you know, Black Flag very shortly. And in Rogue you have these Animus messages, and then in Syndicate you have, you know, her talking through the Helix again. But it doesn't really progress, you know, the whole storyline very much. Because while she is free, like in terms of like she can go out of a tempo, her consciousness, she's still trapped inside the Grey, right? Like inside kind of like the electronical connections throughout the world. Which is how she communicates through the Animus with players. Or through the Helix, I guess. But yeah, at that point she couldn't kind of like, you know, walk physically around the Earth. Rod, when he first finished the game in 2012, he was shocked by the ending and left wondering where they were going next with the story. I think it's a very bittersweet ending to his life, and he did what he thought was right. Exactly. Yeah, I was certainly not expecting him to die either, and it does seem to happen a bit abruptly. You know. But yeah, considering the choice that he has, you know, I think it's 100% understandable he did sacrifice himself. So yeah, I can just understand why he did it. But yeah, it's definitely, you know, very sad seeing him go, especially like that, you know. And also considering the initial plan they had with Assassin's Creed, right? Like, initially they wanted to make Desmond like the ultimate modern day assassin, which I guess arguably he became. But they want to take that even further to a point where he could master the bleeding effect and dive into his ancestors' memories without even using the Animus. Which would of course given him like a huge advantage, because nobody before that actually did master the bleeding effect in such a way. I feel like they could have made AC3 and then just make like a spin-off game, or kind of like maybe a really big expansion that just focuses entirely on modern day and finish Desmond's story there, you know. Kind of like work in both the initial concept for Desmond, where he does master the bleeding effect, but really focus entirely on modern day and make that like the primary kind of like open world. I feel in that case it wouldn't have felt as abruptly like his story ending. But then there's the fact that Desmond never sees his mother again, and the last time he did was when he ran away years before. That's true as well, yeah, when he asked about his mother in AC3 when talking with William. Like supposedly she's doing fine, but the fact they, you know, couldn't talk with each other or see each other in years, it's also just damn tragic. And it's such a shame that Odyssey didn't utilize the potential that Origins set up with a modern day in regards to William and Layla becoming part of the Assassins. But just skip over the entire part, right? Like Origins ends with William visiting Layla and inviting her to visit the Assassins.
And instead of like showing Eva William or like how she meets the assassins, they just skip over that entire part. Completely cut William out of the story. That's something I also was really mad about with modern day in Odyssey, you know. Just like not really using the potential that Origins set up. Fortunately, Valhalla did a better job at making both a connection to the previous game and also making the story flow quite well. But yeah, so there's actually still more to AC3, we're not quite done yet. There's the epilogue. And there's also some deleted speeches that didn't end up in the game that I would like to showcase and listen to. So yeah, that's still two things I want to do before we focus on Unity next. But yeah, what a great game this is. Like, AC3 was such a big jump from Revelations. And also the game they worked on for the longest, I think. Or maybe AC1 was actually one they worked on the longest. Because I think it was like 4 to 5 years in the making. Of course, the whole like concept phase, which took way longer than for other games, obviously. But yeah. But you agree they already had something to work off from? The mission in Paris that Layla and the others went on should have been a playable sequence. It should have been her first mission as an assassin. Yeah, it would have been great to have something like that, you know, or at least show the initiation. But yeah, Odyssey just starts with completely skipping one year, and then we magically find both the Spear of Leonidas and the Book of Herodotus. And we don't even get the explanation for how we find it, right? It just like happens. It's like, yeah, we need these two things to, you know, make the story possible, like the historical parts, so let's just magically give them to the main character, not worry about explaining it. Counting the time the first AC was initially a Prince of Persia title as well, it would have been really long. Exactly, yeah. I guess it also goes into the development time in a way, you know, kind of like as part of the concept phase. Yeah, the soundtrack also is just so amazing in this game. Created by Lorne Barth. He also did the cinematic cutscene soundtracks in Revelations. He kind of like split that soundtrack with Jesper Kid, actually, who worked on the previous AC games. So they ended up making Jesper Kid do the kind of like open world and ambient music, and have Lorne Barth do the kind of like cutscene music. And then this game was the first game he worked on all by himself, creating the soundtrack single-handedly. And yeah, I think it was a good decision. I think in Revelations, like, even though I love both soundtrack styles, it does feel sometimes a bit disconnected, like in the style of how the cutscene music is versus just a kid with ambient music. So it feels like more connected in this game, I think. And also have Lorne Barth really, like, you know, make like more varied kind of like styles of tracks, because he didn't just have to stick to cutscene music. Yeah, I think he did such a great job. Interestingly enough, Lorne Barth also was a student of Hans Zimmer, who is of course one of the biggest composers of our time, doing like countless of movie scores, like for Pirates of the Caribbean, for instance, or Inception, Kung Fu Panda, and yeah, so many more. He also did The Last Samurai. But I think you can definitely tell the influence from Pirates of the Caribbean. Like also in this track we just heard here. And another cool thing is there's actually an actor from the Pirates of the Caribbean movies who also voiced a major side character in this game. The one who played Gist in Pirates played the first mate of Connor on the Aquila, his ship. So that's really cool, you know, considering he's kind of like the first mate also to Jack Sparrow in Pirates. For him to have like a similar kind of, you know, role in this game. It's really great in general. They kind of like committed to the naval, right? Like what we've seen in the behind the scenes stuff. That upon research, you know, they initially didn't want to have naval. But when they did like historical research, they just, you know, thought, okay, yeah, we can't skip it. You know, it's too vital to the time. So them going out of their way to create the naval and for it to be as good as it was, you know, laying the groundwork for Black Flag, which is still considered to be like the best pirate game ever. Like I feel like AC3 really deserves so much credit and appreciation. Like how much effort they put in it, right? Like obviously the team behind Black Flag also did a tremendously good job. But they could just take what this team already had established, right? And refine it. But yeah, they had to come up with all the basics, you know. But yeah, I think that's why Montreal in general just deserves a whole lot of appreciation and credit. I really like the innovative force behind AC. Or they were, I guess. But the way the wave is smooth and how that relates to the ships and then the weather effects as well. Such a great job at the game's level and then much improved in Black Flag. Exactly, yeah. It's just crazy, you know, the technicality behind it as well, especially for the time. Before the dark times, before Ubisoft Quebec. Indeed. Yeah man, the fact that they are now in charge of a series. Like, I still can't believe it. May, what a legend. He also wrote AC1, 2, assisted on Brotherhood, and also assisted on Revelations. But yeah, this was one of the first games since Brotherhood or AC2 I guess, that he actively wrote on again. But yeah, we're not going to drop the mythological dialogue choice, you don't think? At least not for non-main entries. Yeah, I don't think they would. I mean, ever since Tyranny of King Washington, they kind of like established that they are very well into superpowers. And they try anything to make them part of the game. I think Freedom Cry might be the only Quebec production that doesn't have any kind of like superpowers. But yeah, Tyranny and Odyssey definitely take the cake. Gavin Young. Gavin, where are you? Can't wait to search for Gavin again in Reddit as well. Gavin.
indeed. But yeah, this is definitely still my favorite of the Colonial Saga. I would say I like Black Flag pretty much equally, but for different reasons, I guess. But if I would have a chance, or kind of like the choice to like which game I prefer as an AC game as well, then I would probably also say AC3. Reasons being, you know, it feels definitely more classical. You know, you have like kind of the core mechanics you had in a lot of your previous AC games. Like, you know, you have your own brotherhood, you have your homestead, which is a fantastic feature, the way they did it in this game. The brotherhood also, you know, just really advancing that system and give the characters more of a personality. You know, all the different tools you have and the weapon variety. The combat is just definitely the best as well in the Colonial Saga. The writing also feels more classical, I guess. But I like the writing in Black Flag equal, if not even better at times, because it feels more natural. You know, like Direct Double did such a good job, I think, also like making a good like historical style of writing. And just really giving all of the characters so much personality. But gameplay wise, I would definitely prefer 3. But I think writing wise, it's pretty much on par. Maybe with a little bit in favor of Black Flag for me. But that's the thing, right? Like, it's not really, you have to compare them too much. Like, they're both fantastic stories, I think, on their own. But yeah, very different in style though. You can tell that both Darby and Curry have a very different style of writing as well. But both fantastic. What he really did, and that's the game story has so much you could sink your teeth into when doing an analysis of a story, characters, themes. Exactly, dude. And it also was quite brave to do something like that, you know. Like, AC3 definitely played it safer in regards to its protagonist, you know. Whereas for Edward, you know, like, he doesn't start off that likable if you consider, okay, what does he actually do? You know, it's not quite a snowball, the motives that he has. But it's all about the journey that he has, right? And kind of like realizing the path he's walking. And the consequences of it. And with that he also learns a valuable lesson about the creed. And what it means to him personally, so... It's definitely a really innovative story within the series at that point. And also having this like outsider perspective on both the Assassins and Templars, I think was also great, you know. Like not have you like immediately join the Assassins. That's actually something that bothered me quite a bit at first when I played Black Flag, because I thought like, okay, yeah, it does have really cool AC elements and great writing, but I thought back then, you know, I kind of expected to become an assassin eventually, or, you know, kind of like not just play a pirate, I guess. So for me it really felt more like a pirate game within the AC universe, which I guess is a bit true. But now I can definitely appreciate the story much more, also like for its unique take on AC. But absolutely, his character arc is one of the best in the series. The lessons he learns, the events that shape who he becomes and lead him to becoming an assassin. Exactly. Yeah, makes me really wish we had like another DLC for Black Flag, or maybe a future game where we would see, you know, more of him in London. I feel like Syndicate could have made more connections towards him. I really love the one story, like mission, where you go to his mansion and investigate his, you know, place. But imagine kind of like actually seeing like real memories from Edward during that time. Would have been amazing. Okay, so the credits seem to be quite long. What I'm gonna do is I'm actually gonna
Can I skip them? Doesn't seem like. Oh, in that case we have to watch them anyways, I guess. That's right. That was a cool mission. You're right, more connection to him would have been great. Yeah. I would have loved to see how he actually joins the Assassins, I guess, in London. But, yeah, it's also understandable they can't do everything. Ubisoft said, no, you will appreciate everyone on this game, damn it. Yeah, it's like, especially appreciate the development team, Ubisoft Quebec. Have a good luck, Rod. AI gameplay lead Olivier Garneau. Wait, that's actually the name of a Rio developer at Ubisoft? I didn't realize. Because that's also the CEO of Abstergo Entertainment in Black Flag. The one who dies in Watch Dogs. That's kind of funny. Wonder if he even voiced the character or something. Be funny to find out. It's always funny to me when movies or shows or games kind of like have actual like characters based on, you know, people who worked on the project. Hey Vetemice, welcome in dude.
Where is Charles Lee?
Where's Charles Lee? Oh, he's 6 feet deep now. He's dead. We just killed him. Hope you're doing well, dude. Development testers. Yeah, I would like to get a credit somewhere for future AC game at some point there. Game tester. Be kinda cool. But yeah, that's I think a really important aspect as well, right, of development. Kind of like unbiased people that aren't part of the development, that then check out the game to kind of like give you their, I guess, opinion. What feels good and what doesn't. So it's just Raphael Lacoste. He was one of the major guys behind the art direction of all of the AC games. Or at least all of the AC games developed by Moncho up until Valhalla. But recently he left Ubisoft together with quite a few other Moncho, people. Like quite a few of the very
like big AC guys from Montreal left earlier last year, including W. McDevitt, who actually came back again to work on more AC. There he is, Noah Watts, Connor. Such a great voice actor as well. Really underrated performance, I felt. It was funny to me, you know, how people criticize Connor's voice or voice actor. And then, you know, he's like one of the most authentic voices they could have, you know, casted for a Native American. Because, you know, he is. But yeah. Am I still good? Chilling at the moment, going to watch F9 soon. Ah, very nice. I hope you enjoy. And yeah, it's going good. Definitely had a good time finishing this story. Did you know the Native American language too? Yeah, he did. Like, they all spoke Mohawk. They even have like the Mohawk pause at the start of the game, right, where they talk with each other. So yeah, they all speak Kaninke. They also had advisors as well that helped with that. Yeah, it really is. They also tried to really have that accent and kind of like the way of speaking, like the manner of speaking, represented in his English voice. And that's why people often say, you know, he sounds bland or he sounds emotionless, because, I mean, it's intentional, you know. It's just always a shame that some people don't realize that that's the case, that, you know, sometimes, yeah, you might not be immediately liking something, but, I mean, if it's authentic, you know, I think it's more important than your personal preference, you know. At least that's my stance on that. Like, I think authenticity is more important than personal bias. Like, it wouldn't make sense for Connor to speak the way that Ezio did, for instance. It would just be completely out of place. Ooh, violoncello? Oh yeah. Damn, I actually missed if Sarah Schachner was listed under violin. But I don't think she was. She only did it for Black Flag, I believe. Yeah, that's another thing as well, or you know, like, not only makes sense from, you know, the language that he grew up speaking, but also what he went through. You know, when he's angry, that's justified 99% of the time, I would say. But I think there's so many details in Connor's manner and behavior that some people don't really pick up on, or don't seem to understand, I guess. Bennett just write it off as like he's, you know, not relaxed or something. Like, for instance, whenever people touch him, like the colonists, you know, like on his shoulder or something, he is kind of like not expecting it, I guess, because it's not really something that they, you know, would do in that kind of like way where he grew up. Like,
like having, you know, kind of that intimate body contact with somebody you don't really know. Another thing is, it's also kind of like making it suspicious because, you know, whenever they kind of like touch his shoulder and kind of like lead him somewhere, you know, they try to also make him do something for them. You know, they're kind of like using him in those moments, which doesn't kind of, you know, really help with that situation. Not only did his villager mother die in front of him, but he now spends his life hunting and killing people, even though he talks about non-violent solutions all the time. Yeah. I mean, it's definitely tragic, you know, that the violence he witnessed as a kid is still like haunting him later. You can relate to that? Yeah, me too. I mean, he wants to be, you know, touched by somebody you don't know. He does enjoy killing, but he's forced to. Yeah. I mean, after what he witnessed as a child, you know, and also the way the Templars treated him, like Shardsley especially. I mean, he almost choked him to death when he was like 4 or 5 years old, you know. And then talking about how his people don't deserve to live. They're like basically second-rate humans living in the dirt to Shardsley. They don't know, you know, sophisticated society like, you know, the colonists and the Europeans do. So I can understand why Connor already as a child, you know, was like, give me your name so I can, you know, take care of you when I'm old enough. Is any even weird about handshakes like, here, let's touch together our potentially most germy part of our bodies? Yeah. Yeah, that's another thing as well with Connor, right? Like, he actually has to learn how to give a handshake because he just didn't do it before. So I think that's really important to consider with Connor's character, you know, like, all of these kind of like mannerisms, or what's like accepted in society, he doesn't really know. And yeah, also like, you know, even from a non-cultural standpoint, as you say, like, if you just look at it objectively, you know, giving somebody your hand like that, you know, can be potentially gross, I guess. Depending what they've done with their hands. Or when the last time was and they washed it. Yeah, I'm also not a big fan of that either. Unless, of course, it's like people that I know. But yeah. Yeah, another reason that I'm glad I'm skipping Tyranny of King Washington this time is that in that DLC they don't try to be at all authentic to the Mohawk people or the Kanekaka people. They just completely skip the entire language research that they did, you know, and just make them all speak English with almost no accent at all. So even though at that point, you know, Connor doesn't really talk much to the colonists, he's like still in his village. They all talk English with each other for some reason. It's like, yeah, well played, Ubisoft Quebec, you know. Montreal did all the research to make it authentic, and then they just drop it entirely. Damn, these credits are long. I feel like I looked at them for half an hour already or something. But that's alright. It gives us time to, you know, talk a little bit. But yeah, I tell you what, I'm really, really stoked for Unity. I just love the beginning of the game and kind of like, you know, sinking your teeth into it.
Another cool thing is gonna be actually playing the game in order of events, like of historical events. In my research, I did find some inconsistencies, I guess. Like some things don't line up too well with the story that are happening historically, but since we know already what's going to happen, I can just, you know, kind of like explain why some things might not make sense. And then it should be good, I guess. It's gonna be cool to really play it in like, you know, order of like history. But yeah, it's gonna be also interesting with like difficulty, because one of the earliest missions we have to do is the Woman's March, which is a co-op mission. It's actually the hardest co-op mission you can do solo. So it's gonna be interesting doing it with like barely any equipment. I'm gonna try to hope to find people to play it with me online. Because otherwise I'm screwed, I think. Doing that mission by yourself. Production babies. Egg. What are production babies? Ooh, Digit Pictures. We have a team behind the cinematic trailers. Davenport Homestead, 1783. And I get chills with this scene. You know, another scene where there's like no dialogue whatsoever, but you can really tell what's you know, going on in Connor's mind. You know, when he's saying goodbye to everyone. You know, in a way. But they're also releasing the hatchet, and you know, with that signaling that the war is over. They're thinking back to what the war cost him as well, you know. The mission where you have to stop the assassination of Napoleon during the parade was so hard. Yeah, that one is tricky as well, because for one, you have to be in time there to kill the assassins. But then you also can't go far enough, like too far away from Napoleon. Otherwise the mission is gonna fail. And if one guy does it in the co-op, because they don't know about it, That's gonna fail the mission for both of you. So that's a bit annoyingly designed, I guess. It should only, I think, desynchronize the one player, not both. But that mission, unfortunately, is set quite late in the timeline, even after the main story and the DLC of Dead Kings. It's set in 1800. At Napoleon missions, so we're not gonna be having any issues with like equipment or anything like that. If in production, babies are babies born during production. At least that's what you like to believe. It would definitely make sense, yeah. That's really cool to put that in the credits if that's the case. Also showcasing how much time might have passed since, you know, production begin and ending. Exactly, Lucinda. Yeah, the snipers definitely took some time to get to, for sure. Okay, we got an update, one last for Charles Lee here. When Lee was finally released from New York, he was convinced that the Continental Army couldn't hold its own against the British, and told Congress so. However, when Washington decided to go ahead with plans to attack the British column at Monmouth, Lee insisted on being in charge. Once the battle began, Lee ordered his soldiers to retreat. Modern historians are still debating the reason why. Maybe he had forgotten his doggy treats in the tent or needed to go and get them. Washington swept in and took command, turning a complete rout of his army into a draw, and Lee received a very thorough and public dressing down. Afterward, Lee demanded an apology for court-martial to clear his name. Washington chose the court-martial, which didn't go as Lee had hoped. He was found guilty of misbehavior before the enemy, making a shameful and disorderly retreat, in disrespect to the commander-in-chief. He was only given a year's suspension for the crimes, but by the time the year was over, he had been so vocal in his criticism of Washington that Congress removed him from the army permanently. Lee retired to his estate in Virginia, passing his time breeding more dogs. After his death, he was given a full military funeral, getting all the respect he craved, too late to do anything with it. According to history, he actually went back to Poland and died there. But obviously that doesn't fit with the AC3 story, so they wrote the database entry in a way that makes it seem like he died in the colonies. But yeah, that's all the people and event database entries read. Let's have a look at the database here. Yeah, we apparently missed some of them. Also, give me 1 sec, guys. Alright, I just stepped to the door real quick. But yeah, so let's check the DNA here. We've done 100% in each of the sequences. done of a hunting society, of a frontiersman mission, of a Boston Brawler mission. Didn't do the thief missions. Okay, that wasn't part of it either. We did do other liberation missions. I made all of the assassins to master assassins, essentially. We did all of the peg-leg stuff, including the missions. We liberated all of the forts. We didn't do all of the underground, but that wasn't part of the requirement either. I just did like some of it to kind of like showcase what you can find there. Then we've done all of the naval missions with 100%. Also fully upgraded the Aquila. And yeah, also done all of the homestead missions too. Minus the inventions at the end here, but that's not really anything of story relevance. It's just inventions by Benjamin Franklin that you can put up in the homestead, essentially. So yeah, that finishes anything with story relevance in AC3. Oh yeah. With a total synchronization of 86%. But yeah, there's still more. There's actually a short kind of like epilogue that we can check out here. And we gotta go to New York for the first part of it. I think this one is Evacuation Day or something. One cool detail is that there's actually now Patriot guards everywhere. Seems like all of the British are gone. I kind of like when games respect, you know, kind of like the story and what makes sense. They don't just reset it to, you know, how it was before the ending of the main game, but actually make like permanent changes, like only having Patriot guards anymore. Yeah, the NPC shatter. Try to understand that gibberish. Epilogue. Evacuation Day.
America has no need for your services,
Send them back to Britain in a box! Death to the oppressor!
Cut them down!
Death to the oppressors. But yeah, even though the men got the liberty, there's still other people who don't. And of course only a white man. Like even Connor wouldn't be considered equal. Evacuation Day, New York, November 25th, 1783. Evacuation Day was the day where the British troops sailed out of New York City at the end of the American Revolution. Not to be confused with Evacuation Day in Massachusetts, where the British sailed out of Boston Harbor nearer to the beginning of the Revolution. While the Treaty of Paris formally ended the war in early September, the British took some time to pack up their belongings and leave their stronghold at New York, mainly because many loyalists found a sudden need to leave the country, and so there were more people to carry than they originally anticipated. Plus, they probably wanted some time in duty-free. Of course, the British are known for being practical jokers, and so they couldn't resist getting in a few friendly parting shots. Before they left, troops nailed the Union Jack to a flagpole and the bowling green, and then greased the pole. Undaunted, the Americans nailed up spikes to help them climb, managing to raise stars and stripes before the British fleet had sailed out of sight. After that, climbing a greased flagpole to tear down a Union Jack would be part of New York's Evacuation Day festivities, proving that the Americans need better hobbies. The other British parting shot was a literal one. The British ship fired a cannonball at the crowds in Staten Island, who were just jeering at the departing flotilla. Nobody was hurt, the ball fell short of the land, but is sometimes called the last shot of the American Revolution. Evacuation Day isn't much celebrated anymore. It fell out of favor when Thanksgiving was moved to the end of November in 1863. The Treaty of Paris, signed 1763. This is a treaty that ended the war between Britain and the United States, not to be confused with the Treaty of Paris of 1763, which ended the French and Indian War, or the Treaty of Paris of 1810, which ended the French war with Sweden. Paris lost the treaty. The fighting between American and British forces had mostly ended by 1781 with Cornwallis' surrender at Yorktown. This agreement formalized the end of the war and declared the United States as a new nation, with the 13 colonies as 13 new states. The treaty also provided for the release of prisoners of war on both sides, the return of seized property to loyalists and patriots alike, and an expansion of the boundaries of the United States. Of course, the reality was a bit more complicated. Both sides refused to return property that theoretically belonged to the other, like a messy divorce in some easy-listening cities. And as to the offer of expanded territory, well, Spain had other ideas about whose land it was, as did the indigenous people living there. So, that's the actual end of the American Revolution right here. The last cannonball. Right, and then we have the second part of the epilogue, which is actually all the way back in the Mohawk village. So Connor of course wants to go there to check on his people, but then something happens. If that's the voice at all, Lucinda, thank you again so much for coming by and for joining. I really appreciate it. I hope you have a great start to your stream as well today with Days Gone, I reckon. And yeah, thank you so much for being here and for joining. And for anybody that hasn't checked out Lucinda's channel before, highly recommend doing so. He's a really good streamer who plays all kinds of games, from first-person games like Dying Light, Dishonored, and lots of others, to more like story-focused games and horror, including The Last of Us, Days Gone, and others too. So if that's kind of like your kind of game that you like to both play or watch, I would highly urge you to check out Lucinda's channel and leave a follow too. And that's the voice, Lucinda. We will catch you again very soon. Kanata Seddon.
If you're hungry, I've extra.
No, thank you. Where is everyone?
Gone west. Been a while since they left. Seems some fella from New York was granted the land by Congress.
What?
Seeing it happen more and more. Government says they don't take land that's already owned, but
How could this have happened?
We're on our own now. No more merry English parts and labour, which means we gotta go at it ourselves. Gotta pay for it too. Selling land is quick and easy, not quite so nasty as taxes. And since some say they're what started the old war, ain't no rush to bring 'em back. Clever men, these new leaders of ours. They know not to push it just yet. Too soon for taxes. Too British.
Thank you.
Be safe.
Man, I kinda wish we could just ask him to come to the homestead with us. Would been cool to have like one last, you know, or like a few last people that we invite to live with us or something. But yeah. Everybody left. Barely anyone of a Mohawk are left here. That's really the tragic thing about this, right? Like, the initial plan of Connor was to set out to save and protect his people, right? But he couldn't succeed as much as he tried, you know? Like, he did his best, but it wasn't enough. Yeah, there's definitely some things that are bigger than one person, you know, that can't be stopped. As Jermaine says in Unity, the march of progress is slow, but it is inevitable, like a glacier. So, one man can't stop the tide. But yeah, I think that's it. It shows us that there's one more mission in Boston, but that's not the case if we report there. The symbol is going to disappear, I believe. Indeed. No more missions. Okay, let's go back to the homestead here. Gonna have a look if there's any optional dialogues, which I don't think is the case. Didn't Connor get a key or piece of Eden or something? There was a cave or something near his village. Yeah, that already has happened. Oh, the Great Fire of New York. That's new, apparently. Oh, it's like a newspaper article. Never mind, I don't read this. But yeah, we did find the key. Connor actually took it from Charlesley and then buried it in the grave of Achilles' son. And Desmond then found the key so he could open the gate in the temple in modern day. Or as so said, everything he did was for his people so they wouldn't lose their home, but it didn't matter in the end. The colonists didn't care about the natives either. Yeah, that's the thing, right? Like, both the British and the colonists have been fighting them, burning down their villages, or kind of like, you know, driving them away from their homes. But yeah, now the only thing left to do in this game is to find a last place. Stand and reminisce, and I'm gonna go to Achilles' and his family's grave. I feel like that's a very fitting place to end it here. To the old man of a mountain. No dialogues here. Okay. But yeah, guys, that finishes AC3, and with that also the Colonial Saga. It's actually been a while, right? Like, we started all the way back in 1715 with Black Flag. And now we're in 1783 with the epilogue of AC3. It's actually really cool to play the games in historical order, I have to say. Some jumps have been a bit odd, you know, between like Liberation, Rogue and Free. But it was definitely cool to play it in that order. I might play Black Flag first again, but I'm not sure if I would go in exact historical order again on my next playthrough. I have to think on that, but it was really cool to do it and to also work off the timeline, you know, to kind of like have an idea, okay, when did what actually happen? Because if you play it in release order, it can definitely confuse you quite a bit as to, you know, which year some things are happening. And yeah, there's also been like some inconsistencies, you know, especially in Rogue. But also within AC3 when, for example, Haven says, you know, it was 14 years ago, even though when we look at the timeline, it was 18 years ago. But I guess those are just like small mistakes that can happen, I guess. And important is understanding the intention of the developers, I think. So as long as that's kind of like given, that's the most important thing here. But yeah, let's go ahead and exit here now. And then there's still a few things that I would like to showcase before we take a break and switch over to Unity. Let me have a look.
Loading.
Alright. So there's a few videos that I would like to showcase first. There's actually some secret conversations and deleted dialogue that didn't end up in the game. One conversation is of Daniel Cross, right, when you fight him in Brazil. I kind of missed this on my playthrough. I didn't realize there was like more to it, so I would like to showcase that dialogue first. There was also the deleted scene of or dialogue of Daniel Cross last moment, which would have been meant as kind of like a I guess post-death scene between Cross and Desmond. And then there's also the Forsaken final speech of Connor, where he addresses both his mother and his father, which also I think is integral to his character arc. So we're gonna showcase these three dialogues here, starting with the modern day dialogue of Daniel Cross in Brazil. So let's have a look at this here.
Welcome to Access the Animus.
Out of fucking bullets. He almost had me. Jesus. What do you mean, calm down? I am calm. I'm fine. I am A-O-fucking-K. Sorry. Had a little, you know. I'm on edge, man. Who's on edge? Goddamn mind. Of course I have it. Wonder what it does. What do you think they're after these? Right. Good idea. What do you mean, calm down?
Oops, sorry. I accidentally skipped backwards here.
I'm on edge, man. Who's on edge? Goddamn mind. Of course I have it. Wonder what it does. What do you think they're after these? Right. Good idea. As soon as I get back. Just a few hours inside. It'll help. It always helps. All right. I'll wait here for you back.
What's wrong with him?
I need to kill that bastard.
Hurry, Desmond.
Get out of my head, Kenya.
Grab the power source and get out of there.
She keeps saying they can stop it, and then this happens.
He's gonna bolt as soon as he's off the phone.
Have to find a way to keep it under control.
If he gets away with the artifact, we're screwed. You can't let that happen.
Goddamn assassin.
And yeah, that was it basically. So something that I missed, I would definitely have to remind myself next time to actually wait before fighting Danny Cross so we can trigger this dialogue. But yeah, a bit of background info on Danny Cross, right? Like, he was separated as a very young child from his parents. And then Abstergo kidnapped him and abducted him to perform kind of like experiments on him. And they put him in the Animus, which triggered a severe bleeding effect, which you could just see, right? Like, he was actually visiting the memories of his ancestor, or his ancestor got through when, you know, they said, I have to kill that bastard. So he can't really keep it under control, and he's asking Abstergo to actually put him back in the Animus because it usually helps him. Almost like a, you know, drug addict, which he also was. Because when he got released by Abstergo, they actually planted something inside him, kind of like an impulse that they could trigger at any time. And they then tried to use him as a sleeper agent to infiltrate the Brotherhood. However, when he got released by Abstergo, he didn't remember any of his experiments, and was actually drawn to like heavily like substance abusing because of both his bleeding effect and what he's been through, I guess. And he then got recruited by the assassins, who actually took him in and realized that despite him, you know, having issues, he had a lot of potential. But that proved very fatal, because when he actually got to meet the assassin mentor, the Templars triggered the impulse that was inside him, and that made him kill the mentor. And with nowhere to go afterwards, because if he had the assassins would kill him, he turned to the Templars and, you know, went to the only place he could call home, I guess. So he's like another example of the Templars actively manipulating, you know, people in a really bad way. And that's why kind of like is losing his mind, right? Like, he has a severe bleeding effect, and Abstergo couldn't care less for it, essentially. Also have a Max, thank you for the lurk. Okay, but yeah, then of course later in AC3 we have a mission where you know, he's like having Desmond in this situation with a gun, but then his kind of like impulse actually gets triggered by Juno, I think it is, and Juno stops him from being able to shoot at Desmond anymore, which makes him try to flee from Desmond, but Desmond catches up and kills him in return. And this is a deleted scene, or kind of like deleted dialogue, I guess, that would have played after you killed Cross, but for some reason they cut it out. But I'm gonna play it because it gives more, I guess, story arc to Danny Cross, which is a really important character.
Voices in my head, screaming, screaming, all the time, begging to be released. But this is my body, my mind. They live their lives. Why don't they let me live mine? You have to silence them. But Rust, please, please, silence them.
So, yeah. So I guess you could tell that Desmond maybe is the one to, you know, give him the final strike in the end, so he silences those voices forever. But it really just gets to show, you know, how I guess, distraught Danny Cross was at this point already, right? Because of a bleeding effect. Like, he just couldn't take these voices anymore. They were like plaguing him day and night. And Abstergo really is responsible for it, you know, and they didn't care for him, you know. They just used him further. So yeah, that finishes Cross's storyline. Quite tragic too. But yeah, there's one more deleted dialogue that I would like to share, or more of a monologue, I guess. It's a speech by Connor. And in this speech, he kind of like addresses both his mother and father as part of the epilogue, I think it is. It's actually, I think, the ending speech of a Forsaken novel, which came out along with this game. But actually it goes more in depth with the Haven storyline. But yeah, this is kind of like Connor's ending speech from it. So let's have a listen.
My father left those for me. Mother, father, I am sorry. I have failed you both. I made a promise to protect our people. I thought if I could stop the Templars, if I could keep the revolution free from their influence, that those I supported would do what was right. They did, I suppose, do what was right. What was right for them. As for you, Father, I thought I might unite us, that we would forget the past and forge a better future. In time, I believed you could be made to see the world as I did, to understand. But it was just a dream. This too I should have known. Were we not meant to live in peace then? Is that it? Are we born to argue? To fight? So many voices, each demanding something else. It has been hard at times, but never harder than today. To see all I worked for, perverted, discarded, forgotten. You would say I have described the whole of history, Father. Are you smiling then? Hoping I might speak the words you long to hear? To validate you? To say that all along you were right? I will not. Even now, faced as I am with the truth of your cold words, I refuse, because I believe things can still change. I may never succeed. The assassins may struggle another 1,000 years in vain, but we will not stop. Compromise. That is what everyone has insisted upon. And so I have learned it. But differently than most, I think. I realize now that it will take time, that the road ahead is long and shrouded in darkness. It is a road that will not always take me where I wish to go. And I doubt I will live to see its end. But I will travel down it nonetheless. For at my side walks hope. In the face of all that insists I turn back, I carry on. This is my compromise.
Man, so damn good, the speech. You really ask yourself, like, how could they cut that, right? Like, how could they cut that from the actual game? You know, it's like such an important speech, I think. Really, like, giving closure to the struggle also between the Templars and Assassins, between Haven and Connor in AC3, you know? And really showcasing also what the Assassins stand for, right? Like, yeah, the Templars might be right with their, you know, with the observation of the world of people. But that doesn't mean you know, should be cynical. That still means, yeah, maybe things are not good the way they are. But you as an individual have the power to change, you know, things. And Connor, you know, realizes that, whereas Haven doesn't want, you know, to make that risk, I guess. Yeah, just such a good speech. I really can't understand why they cut that out. So important. But yeah, that finished everything with AC3 and the video parts of it. However, there's one last thing that I would like to talk about, which of course is the DSC, the Tyranny of King Washington, Initially, I wanted to play this, but now that I got closer to it, I decided not to. I explained earlier, but one of the reasons is also that it isn't really historical. It's of course a whole alternative, history scenario where Washington doesn't get to be the first president of the United States, but rather the first king, and he becomes very corrupted by having the Apple of Eden. And Connor has to fight against him actively, essentially. And there's only like very, very few parts that are really happening for real. So yeah, I would like to actually have a read up here on that and showcase what's of importance and what isn't. Yeah, exactly, Aura. It definitely is a bummer. Like, so important for Connor. But yeah, at least we have it on YouTube, so we can have a listen there. But yeah, let's have a read up here. Official synopsis. Welcome to Assassin's Creed 3's Tyranny of King Washington, a 3-part DLC series exploring an alternate reality in which George Washington goes mad with unlimited power, foregoing presidency to rule as a tyrannical king. In this alternate world, Connor is and remains Ratonagedon. Having never become an assassin, he must endure new trials, acquiring the skills he will need to take down and possess Washington, and win freedom for his land once and for all. It's kind of funny, right? Because I think you have hidden blades in this DLC, yet they claim he never becomes an assassin. He also has all the other tools, right, that he has as an assassin later. By collecting lucid memory fragments, it is shown that while camping, Connor was greeted by a fearful Washington, who explained he was having unspeakable nightmares involving him. Actually, hold on, I can turn on some music while we listen to while we read this. So it isn't completely silent. Explained he was having unspeakable nightmares involving him, and that he believed the source was a spherical artifact he had taken from an officer following the siege of Yorktown. Washington remarked that oddly he could not remember the man's face. Connor recognized it as an Apple of Eden and suggested he take the artifact into his possession. As Connor reached out to take the apple from Washington's hands, everything went black. And that's basically where the alternate reality starts, right? By them both touching the apple, a vision triggers that makes Washington be a tyrannical king, and Connor trying to fight back against him. So that is basically the entire DLC here, like this whole alternative reality. Connor then also drinks a magical tea, or Ratonagedon drinks a magical tea that gives him superpowers. Like all of a sudden he can go invisible, he can fly like an eagle, he can create like a huge AoE effect like a bear and kill everybody in a certain radius. He can do it all, essentially. Also, a lot of people are going to come back, like Benedict Arnold and Israel Putnam, Benjamin Franklin, and they're all like completely different, like they were in the main game, having different motives, different voice actors. They're basically unrecognizable. And yeah, Franklin, for instance, he's actually being possessed by Washington with the apple. So it's like being mind controlled, but then Connor shoots an arrow into his back, which then frees him from the influence of the apple, which also is a first. It doesn't make much sense in the context of like how the Piece of Eden work. So yeah, it's basically like superpowers fight against the tyrannical Washington. Some people die but don't really end up dying for real. Okay. So, and in the end of the DLC, Connor basically fights against Washington, where he touches the apple again, and then, on touching the apple, the illusionary timeline collapsed, freeing Connor and Washington. After aggressively glaring at each other, Washington picked up the apple and gave it to Connor, declaring he did not want it. Connor was also reticent about possessing such a powerful artifact, so the commander suggested sealing it in a weighted bag and dropping it into the sea. Afterwards, Connor took the Aquila out to sea to dump the apple. Meanwhile, Washington sat in his office when the apple generated one final illusion of a man, suggesting the commander crown himself king, to strengthen the new republic. Having seen what he became, in the other words, Washington defiantly dismissed the notion, at which point the man disappeared. So this is also something I don't really understand the logic behind it, right? Like, Connor drops the apple in the sea, but then Washington still has one final vision created by the apple, which isn't there anymore. But yeah, that's really one of the reasons I didn't want to play it either. You know, like, it doesn't really make a whole lot of sense lore-wise. You know, like the way Pieces of Eden work, the way they get superpowers by drinking a magical tea, not respecting the Mohawk language and completely cutting that out, making all of the historical characters be completely different, to a point where they also even exchanged their voice actors completely, like they couldn't cast them again because they couldn't be convinced to work on something so ridiculous. And yeah, it's just really one of the worst DLCs, I think, in the series. Like, even with Fate of Atlantis and Legacy of First Blade, you at least had things that were happening for you. And this DLC is just completely alternate reality. Like a good LSD trip, I guess. Yeah, I guess that was their inspiration. Trivia. The Tourney of King Washington was originally announced under the title of The Madness of King George. This seems to be a reference to a film of the same name and an adaptation of a play, The Madness of George III, which chronicles the declining mental health of George William Frederick, better known as King George III, ruler of Great Britain from 1760 to 1820. It has not been officially stated why the name was changed, though it is possible that this was simply done to make the downloadable content story more distinct from the otherwise unrelated film. Originally, Ratonagedon would have gained his animal abilities by touching a soul stone with an animal tattoo imprinted on it. However, the development team's consultant disliked the idea and suggested to use the red willow tree. So that's how they got the idea with a tea that's been made from the tree. In an exclusive interview with creative director Mark Alexis Cote, he stated that the Tourney of King Washington as a whole encompassed an extra 7 hours of gameplay. Ah yeah, one of my favorite people working for AC. Not. So he's one of the level designers and programmers at Quebec. And he was also the creative director for AC Syndicate. He worked on Prince of Persia The Forgotten Sands, AC Brotherhood, AC Free, Black Flag, Freedom Cry, and Syndicate, but also Odyssey. I believe he was actually one of the main guys behind Odyssey. Bit weird they don't list that over here, but I guess they don't also update it on a regular basis. But yeah, that's everything AC3 related that I wanted to talk about. And that finishes also anything of story relevance. I feel it's definitely better to just talk about the journey than, you know, exposing myself to 6 hours of mediocre story and gameplay. But yeah, that means now with AC3 finished, and with the historical order of events, we can go and start the next game, which is gonna be, of course, AC Unity. The timeline, it takes place 6 years after the events we just saw. Even earlier if you consider the, you know, 76 Paris memory where Arno is still a child. However, before we go ahead and switch over to Unity, I'm gonna take a break and also set a few things up. We're also gonna be not immediately jumping into the game, but rather watch some trailers first. And also some gameplay trailers too, kind of like how did Ubisoft introduce the game, I guess. And what did they promise, I guess, as well. And how did the game kind of like deliver, I guess. We will find out by playing the game ourselves. But yeah, I have like a few trailers set up and also some gameplay demos that are narrated by Ubisoft themselves. So we're gonna have a look at that, and then we would jump into the game. So gonna be a bit of a watch session we're gonna be doing first. Indeed, Aura. It's been a good time with the Kenways. I love the story, as tragic as it is. But yeah, let me go ahead and already change the slide here to Unity. And yeah, then I shall be back in like 10 minutes or so with more of Unity. I will leave you with some Unity soundtrack as well, and yeah, I will catch you in just a few.